36 years after a chance encounter during a blizzard, former President Barack Obama stumbles across a newspaper article about the Williams family. The same kind-hearted people who once sheltered him when his car slid off the road in rural Illinois now face foreclosure on their longtime home. This humble family never once used their connection to the former president to ask for help, even in their darkest hour. What began as a simple act of kindness decades ago is about to come full circle in ways no one could have imagined. Barack Obama gripped the steering wheel of his sedan tighter as the snow began to fall harder. What had started as light flurries was quickly turning into a blizzard. The community organizing meeting in Springfield had run longer than expected, and now darkness was falling fast along with the snow. Should have stayed at the hotel, Barack muttered to himself, but he had law school classes tomorrow morning, and Professor Tribe didn't accept excuses, not even from his most dedicated students. It was February 1987. And at 25 years old, Barack was already making a name for himself as a community organizer. The local churches were finally starting to build real coalitions around him. Every meeting mattered. The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the snow. The road ahead was disappearing under a white blanket. Barack slowed down, squinting to see the fading yellow line. A gust of wind rocked the car. Barack felt the back tires slide slightly. He eased off the gas even more. "Come on. Just 20 more miles to the highway," he said to himself. His headlights caught a road sign, Millbrook, 3 miles. Barack had never heard of the town. It wasn't on his route back to Chicago. That's when he realized he had taken a wrong turn somewhere back. The car slid again, this time more dramatically. Barack turned into the skid like his grandfather had taught him years ago, but it wasn't enough. The sedan slid sideways, then off the road, coming to a hard stop in a snowbank. The engine died. Barack tried to restart it. The car made a whining noise but wouldn't turn over. "Great," he sighed, resting his forehead against the steering wheel for a moment. He tried the car phone. No signal. In 1987, cell service wasn't something you could count on, especially in rural areas during a storm. Barack zipped up his wool coat, stylish but not meant for a winter hike, and stepped out into the howling wind. Snow immediately stung his face. He looked around. There were no lights from cars on the road, no houses in sight, except, wait, was that a faint glow through the trees? Barack trudged through the deepening snow, his dress shoes quickly soaked through. The snow was already above his ankles. After about 10 minutes of walking, frozen and miserable, he saw it, a small 2-story house with lights in the windows. Smoke curled from the chimney. Relief flooded through him as he made his way up to the front door and knocked. The door opened and warm air rushed out. A man in his 40s stood there, surprise on his face. "My car slid off the road," Barack explained quickly. "Could I use your phone to call for help?" The man stared at him for a second longer, recognition dawning in his eyes. Aren't you Barack Obama?" Barack nodded, too cold to say more. "Joe Williams," the man said, extending his hand. "Come in before you freeze." Barack stepped into the warmth gratefully. The house was modest but cozy. A fire crackled in the fireplace. The furniture was worn but clean. "Martha," Joe called, "we've got a visitor who needs help, and you're not going to believe who it is." A woman came from what Barack guessed was the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. Her eyes widened. "Our phone's out because of the storm," Joe explained, "but you're welcome to wait it out here." "Thank you," Barack said sincerely. "I don't want to be a bother." "Nonsense," Martha said. "No one should be out in this weather. Take off those wet shoes before you catch your death." As Barack was removing his shoes, 3 children appeared from different parts of the house, drawn by the commotion. 2 boys and a girl, ranging from around 6 to 12 years old. The oldest boy's jaw dropped. You're. Yes, Jason, that's Barack Obama," Joe said, "and he's our guest, not a zoo exhibit." Jason blushed. The younger boy, who couldn't have been more than 6, just stared. "I'm Emily," the girl said, about 9 years old. "Do you want some hot chocolate? Mom makes the best." "That would be amazing," Barack replied with a genuine smile. Joe showed Barack to the bathroom where he could dry off. When Barack came out, Martha had hot chocolate waiting, topped with homemade whipped cream. "The road crews won't be out until morning," Joe explained. "You're welcome to our couch for the night." Barack looked around the small living room. Community organizing posters hung on one wall. A small TV sat in the corner. On the mantel were family photos and what looked like school achievement awards. Are you guys interested in community organizing? Barack asked, noticing a poster about voter registration. Dad volunteers at the community center, Jason said, pointing to his little brother, who was still staring at Barack in awe. He says everyone has a voice that matters. Dad takes us to town meetings when they let kids come, Dion added. Martha brought out a simple dinner, beef stew and freshly baked bread. They didn't make a fuss about having a future political leader at their table. They just treated him like a person who needed help. So what brought you out to these parts, Mr. Obama? Joe asked as they ate. Please, call me Barack, he replied. I was at a community meeting in Springfield, working with local churches on housing issues. That's wonderful, Martha said. Our neighborhood could use someone like that. As the evening went on, Barack relaxed. The Williams family didn't ask for political favors or pester him with policy questions. They just included him in their normal family evening. Later, as everyone was getting ready for bed, Martha brought Barack blankets and a pillow for the couch. Sorry we don't have a proper guest room, she said. This is perfect, Barack assured her. Thank you for taking me in. We're just doing what anyone would do, she replied. But as Barack settled onto the couch, he knew that wasn't true. Not everyone would welcome a stranger into their home during a storm, famous or not, and fewer still would make them feel so genuinely welcome. The last thing Barack saw before drifting off to sleep was little Dion peeking at him from the hallway, clutching a book about community heroes to his chest, as if making sure the magic wouldn't disappear in the night. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the Williams home, Barack Obama had found an unexpected haven, one that would change more lives than anyone could have imagined that snowy night. Barack felt someone watching him. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the morning light streaming through the living room windows. A small face was inches from his, studying him intently. Are you really Barack Obama? Asked 6-year-old Dion in a whisper. Barack smiled. Last time I checked. Can you really change the world? Dion's eyes were wide with wonder. Barack sat up, running a hand over his face. Not by myself. It takes everyone working together. Dion Williams, Martha's voice came from the kitchen. Leave our guest alone and come eat your breakfast. Dion grinned, showing a missing front tooth, then scampered toward the kitchen. Michael stretched and folded the blankets Martha had given him. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the house. Barack followed his nose to the kitchen, where the Williams family was gathered around a wooden table. Good morning, Martha greeted him. I hope you slept okay on that old couch. Better than I would have in my car, Barack replied. Thank you again. The road crews have been out since dawn, Joe said, pouring Barack a cup of coffee. I can drive you back to your car after breakfast. Probably needs a tow, though. Jason and Emily were stealing glances at Barack between bites of pancakes. Dion made no attempt to hide his staring. I made extra, Martha said, setting a plate of pancakes, eggs, and bacon in front of Barack. You need a good breakfast after being out in that cold. The pancakes were fluffy, dotted with blueberries. Barack couldn't remember the last time he'd had a home-cooked breakfast this good. So Jason finally worked up the courage to ask, what's it like working with all those important people? Barack smiled. They're not more important than anyone else. Every person's voice matters equally. I want to be a community organizer like you, Jason said proudly. He's really good with people, Joe added, ruffling his son's hair. Got his mom's way with words, thankfully, not my shy nature. Barack noticed how worn Joe's hands were, the hands of someone who worked hard for a living. The kitchen they sat in was clean but dated. The appliances were at least a decade old. What do you do for work, Joe? Barack asked. I'm a foreman at the factory in Millbrook, Joe answered. Been there 20 years now. And I work part-time at the elementary school, Martha added. Lunch lady extraordinaire. Barack nodded, taking in the modest lifestyle of this family who had so generously welcomed him. Despite clearly not having much extra, they had shared everything without hesitation. After breakfast, Joe found an old winter hat for Barack to wear. Might help you stay a bit warmer, he explained. Barack reached for his wallet. Please, let me give you something for all your help. Martha shook her head firmly. Absolutely not. We didn't help you for money. We help people because it's right, Martha said simply, not for reward. Barack put his wallet away, humbled by her words. Before leaving, Barack asked if the kids had anything he could sign. Jason brought out a worn notebook, and Emily found a poster about community service. Dion shyly offered his prized possession, a small book about civil rights leaders. Barack signed each item, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his business card with his personal number written on the back. "If you ever need anything," he explained, handing it to Joe, "please don't hesitate to call." The children looked excited, but Joe seemed hesitant. "That's very generous, but..." "Please," Barack insisted. "It would mean a lot to me." Joe finally agreed, carefully tucking the card into his wallet. Outside, the world was transformed. Sunshine glinted off pristine snow. Joe's pickup truck was already cleared off and running, warming up in the driveway. Barack said goodbye to Martha and the kids on the porch. "Thank you for the pancakes, Martha. Best I've ever had." Martha smiled. "You just need more home cooking in your life." Little Dion surprised Barack by giving him a quick hug around the waist before darting back to his mother's side. Joe drove Barack back to his stranded sedan. As expected, it wouldn't start. Joe helped Barack flag down a tow truck that was clearing the roads and made sure the driver knew where to take the car for repairs. "I can't thank you enough," Barack said as he prepared to leave with the tow truck. Joe shook his hand. Anyone would have done the same. But as Barack watched Joe drive away, he knew that wasn't true. The Williams family had shown him a kind of genuine warmth that had become increasingly rare in his life. Years passed. Barack Obama went on to become a senator, then president, changing the world in ways that 6-year-old Dion had dreamed possible. The Williams family continued their quiet life in Millbrook, never bragging about the night they had sheltered a future president. Neither knew that their paths would cross again, or that the simple act of kindness during a snowstorm would someday come full circle in ways none of them could have imagined. The Obama Foundation headquarters buzzed with activity. In his spacious office, Barack Obama leaned back in his chair. At 62, he had traded the Oval Office for community organizing on a global scale, but his commitment to helping others still burned bright. "Mr. President," his assistant knocked on the open door, "I've got those reports you asked for and your personal mail." Barack nodded. "Thanks, just put them on the desk." She placed a stack of folders next to a small pile of envelopes. Most people sent requests to his foundation's address, but some still found ways to reach his personal mail. After she left, Barack flipped through the mail: bills, a charity invitation, a small-town newspaper. "Wait." He paused, picking up the folded newspaper, the Millbrook Gazette. Millbrook. Why did that sound familiar? He unfolded it, wondering who would send him a local paper from a small Illinois town. A yellow sticky note on the front read, "Thought you should see this. A mutual friend." No signature. Barack scanned the headlines, nothing standing out until his eyes caught a story at the bottom of the page: "Local family who once sheltered political leader now facing eviction." His heart skipped a beat. Memories from that snowy night in 1987 flooded back: the storm, the warm kitchen, Martha's pancakes, little Dion's wide eyes. He began to read. The Williams family, longtime Millbrook residents known for their community service, is facing foreclosure on their home of 45 years. Martha Williams, 79, who worked in the school cafeteria for 3 decades before retiring, is now struggling with health issues following a stroke last year. Her son Dion Williams, 43, moved back home to care for her after the death of his father Joe 5 years ago. Barack set the paper down, a mixture of emotions washing over him. Guilt, regret. How had he let this family slip from his mind so completely? They had shown him such kindness, and he had meant to keep in touch. He picked up his phone. "Cancel my meetings for the next 2 days. All of them." "Sir, you have the foundation board meeting and..." "All of them," Barack repeated. "And have the jet prepared. I need to go to Illinois tonight." Within hours, Barack was on his private jet, headed for Illinois. He sat alone, staring out the window at the darkening sky. Had it really been 36 years? How many times had he thought about reaching out to the Williams family, only to let it slip his mind in the whirlwind of his career? As the plane began its descent, Barack thought about what he would say. How do you apologize for forgetting people who showed you genuine kindness? How do you offer help without wounding their pride? He drove himself to Millbrook. following GPS. The town had changed some, familiar storefronts were now chain businesses, while others stood empty, but the heart of it seemed the same. When he reached the Williams house, he parked across the street and sat for a moment, gathering his thoughts. The house needed paint. The front steps had been modified with a wheelchair ramp, but the porch swing where he'd said goodbye to Martha and the kids still hung there. Barack got out of the car and walked up to the front door. At 62, with his graying hair and the natural changes of age, he wasn't as instantly recognizable as he once had been. He rang the doorbell, his heart pounding. The door opened, and a woman in her mid-40s appeared. She had the same warm eyes as Martha, though her face showed signs of stress and fatigue. "Can I help you?" she asked, not recognizing him at first. "Emily?" Barack guessed, remembering the 9-year-old girl who had offered him hot chocolate. Her eyes widened, recognition dawning. "Oh my God," she whispered, "President Obama." He nodded, suddenly feeling uncertain. "I hope it's okay that I came. I just found out about your family's situation." Emily seemed frozen for a moment, then collected herself. "Of course, please come in." As Barack stepped inside, he heard a frail voice from the living room. "Who is it, Emmy?" Emily looked at Barack, still processing his presence. "It's Barack Obama, Mom, from her wheelchair by the window." Martha Williams looked up. Her face was older, marked by the stroke, but her eyes lit up instantly. "Well, look who the wind blew in," she said with a smile. "Took another storm to bring you back to us." And just like that, Barack felt the same warmth he had felt 36 years ago, the warmth of being treated not as a former president, but simply as a person welcome in their home. "Come sit down," Martha said, gesturing to the couch across from her wheelchair. "Emmy, get our guest some iced tea." Barack crossed the living room, taking in the familiar space. The same family photos lined the walls. Though many new ones had been added over the decades, it was both the same and completely changed, like all of them. "I can't believe you're here," Martha continued. "What brings the former president back to our little town after all these years?" Barack leaned forward. "I just found out about your situation. Someone sent me a copy of your local paper." Martha's smile faded slightly. "Ah, so you know about the house." Emily returned with iced tea. "Mom, I need to call Dion. He should be here for this." As Emily stepped into the kitchen, Martha's eyes grew misty. 5 years now since Joe passed. Cancer. He fought hard, but, she glanced at a photo of Joe on the side table. "He never forgot that night you stayed with us." "I never forgot either," Barack said, though it wasn't entirely true. He had remembered, but not enough to check on them. "I'm sorry I lost touch. Life gets busy, but that's no excuse." Martha waved away his apology. "You're Barack Obama. I'm sure busy doesn't begin to cover it. We never expected anything. That's not why we helped you." "I know," Barack said. "That's what made it so special." Soon, Dion arrived, a tall man in his early 40s who stopped dead in his tracks when he saw who was sitting in his living room. "President Obama," he said, his voice a mix of disbelief and something else, weariness, perhaps. Barack stood, extending his hand. "Dion, last time I saw you, you were missing your front teeth." A flicker of a smile crossed Dion's face as they shook hands. "Last time I saw you, I was hiding in the hallway, spying on you while you slept on our couch." Barack explained his plan, a community center and basketball facility, built on their land in partnership, not charity, but a real business venture that would provide income and keep their home. "This wouldn't be charity," Barack continued. "It would be a business partnership. I provide the capital. You provide the land and local management. We all have skin in the game." The family exchanged glances. It sounded almost too good to be true, but Barack's sincerity was evident. "Why would you do this?" Dion asked. "You could build a center anywhere. Why here? Why us?" Barack thought carefully before answering. 36 years ago, your family showed me something rare, kindness with no agenda. You didn't help me because I might become president someday. You helped me because I was a person who needed help. You taught me a powerful lesson that night, and it stayed with me all these years. This town gave me shelter once. Maybe now I can help provide some shelter in return." Martha dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Even Dion seemed moved. "We'd need to think about it," he said finally. "Of course," Barack agreed. "It's a big decision." The next morning, over Martha's insistence on making pancakes despite her stroke, they discussed the details. Barack explained how the center would work. the jobs it would create, the programs it would offer. Partners? Martha asked, extending her good hand. Barack took it, smiling. Partners. And just like that, with a handshake across generations, the seed of something new was planted in the soil of an old kindness. The Barack Obama Community Center would soon rise in Millbrook, a testament to the power of simple human decency and the belief that everyone deserves shelter from life's storms.